Welcome, everyone, to the Pockets of Knowledge podcast. I'm your host, Desiree Stanley, and with me today is my guest, Priscilla, and she is from Priscilla Danielle Designs, and I'm so excited to have you on the show. I love design. I love architecture. I had a subscription to Architectural Digest for years, and HGTV is like,
I know.
the only thing I watch on TV, just about. So I'm so excited to have you on the show to talk about design and welcome, Priscilla Danielle. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here with you.
Awesome. Well, to get started, I did want to ask you, was design something that you always knew you wanted to do? Did you love design just as a child growing up and you're just like, this is what I want to do with my life? Or was it kind of a progression and something that developed later?
So it's funny you asked that, because when I was in high school and you had to fill out like your senior, what are you going to do? What are your hopes and dreams? What do you want to be? And I actually wrote in there, I want to move to California and be a great interior designer, which is it's funny because my mom was super, super creative. And so I know that I got all of my creativity from her, but my life just took a really different path. And I didn't actually start doing interior design or really delve into it until I was about 30. It was something that I thought was awesome and that I wanted to do, but it was like delayed, right?
Got it. So it sounds like the path that you took was a little bit winding, as it is for a lot of people. What we study in college doesn't necessarily become the career that we're in later in life. And so what was it then that sparked the inspiration for you to actually begin design?
Well, it's funny you mentioned HGTV. So I was in this career in the computer hardware industry, and my role was procurement of hard drives. I had such a hard time in that because even though I was making great money, it was like a soul crushing business to be in. And, we were in cubicles with no windows. And I remember asking my boss, the owner of my company, can I have a little bit of, just a small budget to put some artwork in here? And he said, no, they weren't having any of that. So it was blank walls and it was, just this uninspiring space. And then lo and behold, the dot-com bust and my company went belly up. Like, we go to work one day and they don't have, they say, I'm sorry, we can't pay you. So I got a job interview right away. I had a couple of companies want to hire me right away because I talked to people all day long and these companies were like, come work for us. And I went in my first interview, I walked in the office and my heart just sank. And I was like, I cannot do this anymore. I just decided to take time off and figure out what I wanted to do. I started painting my walls and, getting accessories and really just paying attention to my own home more. It just sparked this thing, like this creative desire that had always been there. And now I had time to do it. And I just, it took a couple months, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to start over. I'm getting out of tech and I'm getting in design. This is my passion and this is what I want to do.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it. I mean, you took a situation that was really, the dot-com bust was huge. That wrecked our economy and was a really challenging time for a lot of people. And you used that as an opportunity to springboard into something that you really wanted to do all along, it sounds like.
I'm so thankful. I wouldn't change it for the world because I love what I do every single day. I feel blessed to do what I do. And it never gets old for me. It never gets old. So I just find myself incredibly lucky.
And it seems like it's constantly changing, right? You're working with different clients all the time. So their needs, the things that they like, it's always different, right?
Yes, it's always different. So, I can have 3 meetings in a day with different clients. And, my first meeting in the morning literally could be, someone who has a charming Willow Glen house and has a French country style. And then I go to my next client who's more transitional to modern, right? And then I go to the next thing that's more of a farmhouse look. And I get to switch gears like that. And I'm totally okay with that. I'm totally okay with that. And I love it. And it keeps it really interesting for me all the time.
For sure. So let's talk a little bit then about design and how you kind of work with your clients to help them figure out what they want. Because a lot of times we go into it as, I have no idea what I want to do with my space. I don't know what my style is. So how do you help your clients figure that kind of stuff out?
Well, it's interesting. I've been doing this for 20 years now. And the thing that most clients say to me is that pretty prevalent throughout is, I know what I like when I see it, but I can't put it all together. And when I walk into one of those tile stores, I'm overwhelmed. Pretty much that's what people tell me. So I consider my job to get inside their head. And so I ask a ton of questions about what do they like to wear? What makes them feel happy? If they travel, where do they travel? Things like that. And then of course we go through pictures, most clients, I would say 95% of clients, by the time they hire a designer, they have a Pinterest board and they have a house board, or they've got cuttings from magazines. They say, oh, I like this. And they tell me different elements of things that they like, which is so perfect for me. If they haven't already done that, it's part of the homework that I require, because part of me being a successful designer for them is to really be able to get inside their head. And I find that one of the things that's really fun for me is by asking all of these questions and looking at photos with them and looking at inspiration and talking about them and their lives and their families and how they entertain and, what Christmas is like and all of these different things. What happens for me is that I start to be able to know for sure when we go shopping for something, like, I don't need to go over here. This is not the aisle for you. We're going straight over here. What I tell them is I take out the noise, that all of those overwhelming, like, oh my God, there's so many decisions. Like, where do I even start? I already know when we're going where I'm going to focus my time. It's pretty quick that it happens for me that I'm like, okay, you're going to love this. You're going to love this. You're going to love this. And they're like, oh my God, I love that. And sometimes they go, I hadn't thought about it. And I'm really aware of these sort of micro changes in their inflection or the way their eyes light up to know that we're on the right path. I don't consider myself incredibly pushy, but I will tell you, here's why I love this for you, because I'm going to put this and this and this and all of these different things together. And then they go, oh, okay. Yes, I love that. And then I'll say, here's why I don't love this for you, right? Like, here's why we're going to stay away from this. That it just seems to work really well for me and my clients, kind of helping them define what their style is, even if they can't define it for themselves.
And it sounds like you're kind of reading them as well, like that you mentioned the spark in their eye, or, maybe suddenly they just get this look on their face like, oh, yes, maybe that's not really it. And so you're getting those cues and you're using that to help kind of guide them in this selection process and really making it easy for them. And that's fantastic.
Yeah, I think that's invaluable because people often don't know what is going to be really exciting for them, right? Normally they walk into these showrooms and they're so overwhelmed that it's not a happy experience. And so just step by step, I'm talking with them about it, and I'm waiting to see a reaction of like, ooh, or, oh, I hadn't thought of that, or, but there's something. Sometimes I will say like, let's think about this for a minute. And here's why. And if they're like, Priscilla, nope, then I move on. I'm not, for me, it's about creating your space that makes you happy. So, that you feel is your own, not mine, right? I don't need to create my house over and over again, right? What's exciting for me is to get inside your head and create a space that's perfect for you and surprise you with that, right? So that's what makes my job so fun.
Yeah, I love it. No, it sounds fantastic. And it really sounds like you're doing the absolute best for your clients by really taking that feedback and, guiding them. And I love it. That's awesome. That kind of leads me to a question about when people want to do kind of more larger scale projects, like they're talking about remodeling because they're, in a home that's maybe older, and that can get even more overwhelming because, most people are like, I have no idea what I need to do. And so how do you help your clients with some of those larger scale projects?
That's what I love to do, honestly. I love larger scale projects that are long term because we really, it's this relationship that is, it becomes extremely symbiotic and we get to have fun, right? Because when I can do a kitchen and, 3 bathrooms and then the furniture after that, we really get to play, right? So when I have a client, sometimes my clients will tell me, well, let's pick this for the bathroom and then we'll just do the same thing in all the bathrooms. I go, no, right? No, because this is a custom look we're going for, a custom home. We're not building a spec house. This isn't an apartment, right? And so then we get to explore these different looks in each space, but still make it all look really cohesive. There's some kind of tie-in, right? Gone are the days when it used to be back when I first started, or, it was like, oh, you had your one, tropical theme room. And then over here, right. And everything was different. We can play around, but there's always some kind of theme that ties in. Right. So I usually, I define the design concept for the remodel or the project. And then we always go back to that. It helps to keep everything in perspective and make sure that we get an interesting look that's varied, and that allows them to express themselves through design in the different spaces. So I love doing that.
Yeah. And you brought up a good point, and that's often we just think like, I need to keep it simple. So let's just do the same tile in every bathroom, we'll just do the same thing everywhere. And I love that you're saying we can keep it simple, sure, but let's give it a little twist here or a little twist there, but it still all works together.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that it keeps it fun and exciting for them too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So let's talk then a little bit about some pet peeves, because you mentioned the themed rooms from the past. And so I'm guessing that might be one of your pet peeves in design.
To get a more refined look, I think it doesn't have to be. It's funny because I'm thinking about one client that I have right now that when they hired me, they said, Priscilla, we love going to Hawaii and we love traveling, and that's just our happy place. And we want our home to look like a high-end resort. And so how fun is that? I love that. I'm like, okay, I love this. This is so exciting. But the conversation that we are having is how much of that is too much, right? You can't do bamboo texture on the walls and a palm print rug with palm print pillows and seagulls on the sofa and expect it to look refined, right?
Yeah.
So we have to talk about how to bring in color and texture and maybe an element that is like, okay, this feels like a high-end Hawaiian resort when I walk in, but not every piece in there is screaming that, right?
Right.
So it's subtleties, really, it's nuances. And I think the nuance in design is incredibly important. So I really try to pay attention to that.
Right. And like you said, you're just trying to like allude to the idea of Hawaii or a high-end, resort or whatever it is that your clients are saying. You're not actually trying to make it a resort, in Hawaii or wherever it is that they, are interested in going.
Yes.
So that makes sense. And so is there anything else that, you think is like, oh, no.
Yeah.
We're not doing that.
I have a few things for me that are deal breakers that, I'm open to a lot of things, and I'm open to a lot of interpretation with clients, but there are some things that I absolutely live to like never have this happen in my clients' homes. Bad transitions between different materials drives me absolutely crazy. bad transitions with molding, right? Crown molding or paneling. Sometimes we do these really beautiful paneled walls, and how all of that comes together in transitions. For me, I really need your eye to just kind of flow throughout the space and not catch on anything. I am so guilty of, if I see something done wrong, everything else can be great. I'm sitting and looking at that one thing, and it drives me absolutely crazy. So for me, I'm always looking to make sure that we keep the eye flowing throughout the room, and that we have beautiful transitions between tile and hardwood, or, one tile in a bathroom to another. And I really hate, cheap looking solutions. I can be all about saving money and helping my clients save money and be conscious of the budget. But if it's done in a cheap solution, then, I'm putting my foot down.
No, and that makes sense, because you are there to guide the client, and you're respectful of their budget, it sounds like. And so so you're going to help guide them in a way that can give them the look that they want without, breaking that budget.
Right. Absolutely. And just one other thing that I think is really important. This is one of the things that I really try to instill in my clients. We can go and you can spend, all this money on an interior designer, and we can go and buy all this beautiful tile that's very expensive. But if you have an installer that is not an expert, we've wasted that money. It's wasted. So your tile installers and your finish carpenters, I feel, are worth their weight in gold, because they can make an inexpensive tile that's installed correctly look expensive. So I really tell my clients, the cheap guy is not going to benefit you at all. Go higher end with your, if there's a question of budget, go higher end with your installer, and then let's pick some really cool tile that maybe doesn't cost quite as much, but that installer is going to make it look gorgeous. So that's like, getting on my soapbox, my little preach there.
I love it. But that's a great point that you brought up too, because the installers just slapping something up there, it's going to look terrible. So it doesn't matter what the cost of the tile is, or the carpet, or the wood, or whatever you're putting in, it's just going to look terrible.
It's just going to look terrible.
Well, so that leads me to a question. If somebody wanted to just like refresh their space, maybe they didn't need to go, all out and change everything. What are some things that they could do to just freshen up and change little bits here and there?
Well, definitely a fresh coat of paint is inexpensive and awesome, right? So paint can refresh easily. Changing your accessories or your pillows seasonally, I think, is huge, right? And I do that with clients all the time, where we have our fall winter look, and then we have our spring summer look. And those are inexpensive things, right? If you were to go with a neutral sofa, but then you could just change a couple pillows here and there, or the throw, that does wonders. A little accessory here and there. So you don't need to remodel everything. You don't have to tear out your flooring, but you can do little things like that make a huge difference. And I think, a lot of times you see like a picture of a beautiful room, and mostly everything is neutrals and whites, but then maybe there's that one green pillow and one accessory that kind of goes with that, and your mind says it's a colorful space. Very easy to do that.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like you said, everything else could be neutral, but a few things in a different color, and now you're thinking like, this is a colorful room.
Yes. It's true.
And it's such an interesting thing that like our mind looks for those oddities, right? And then that's what stands out. And it's like what you said before about how maybe the molding doesn't line up or something. And then that's the thing that you look at because it's the thing that's different, right?
Yes, exactly. And I think that's a really chic way of doing things. So you can buy all manner of, pillows out there, but here's one thing. If you were to buy this one expensive fabric that's let's say it's $300 a yard for that fabric, but you only need 1 yard to make a fabulous pillow. and you mix that one in with some others that are a little bit more simple, the look becomes very chic. And it makes it look expensive, and you spent $300.
No, that's a great point.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that suggestion too. Just little bits, here and there can really elevate the space, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Add a little bit of luxury. Not everything has to be luxurious, but if you add a little touch of luxury, that can be really important.
Yeah. So let me ask you, what are some of your favorite design styles, and like, what do you like to work with?
So I like working in a lot of different styles. I would say really going with a transitional look is really exciting for me, where we can be eclectic. That's what I kind of love about that, where you can mix let's say a sofa that has some traditional lines, and then put a super modern coffee table in front of it with a cool plant or something on it. And it's just really unique and modern, right? So, and it allows you to do things like, pick up that special thing when you were on your trip to Italy that you just saw in the store and you're like, oh my God, I love it, right? But if you had gone headlong into, some design direction, then that would really not work. But if your space is a little bit more eclectic and a little bit more transitional, you can add those little exciting elements in there. I really love working with texture and color. And if there's, I had a client this past year, this is second time I've worked with her. The first house I did with her about 6 or 7 years ago, we did so much color everywhere and she loved it. And everywhere it was awesome. Now they buy a new house and she's like, Priscilla, I need you again, but I don't want any color. I want all neutral. I want a lot of blacks and all of that. And I was like, this is going to be really exciting, because what we're going to do in the absence of color, we're going to work with texture. And so that's what we did. We used all of these neutral colors, punctuating with blacks and rich browns, but everything just has this textural element to it. And so that's what really made that exciting. And it's just so calming and serene when you walk in there. It's just lovely.
Oh, that's interesting. And most people wouldn't think to go with those darker, shades. It's like, that seems like, wow, it's so out there, like to go that level, but it really makes a difference, right?
Yeah, you have to balance it, right? You have to balance it with, lighter colors and lighter textures, but that's what makes it fun and interesting. And I love that, it's, I've been in business long enough now where my clients are buying homes again and calling me back and, hey, we want to refresh in the master bedroom, and so it was just such a fun change to go completely off the scale with just textural and blacks. And it was such a beautiful, it was really beautiful. So even though color is back, she's like, I've done that, right? I've done that and I don't want to do that again. And she was like, I don't want any gray anywhere. Which is the other thing you're hearing a lot of lately.
Right. Yeah. So how could somebody who, as you said, everything is gray, right? Cabinets are gray, flooring is gray, countertops are gray, everything is gray. How could somebody who's maybe used to that or afraid of doing color, like how could they incorporate color into their design?
If somebody's telling me I really need if somebody went headlong into that gray, which a lot, we were doing a lot of, because that's what everyone wanted. What are some ways that people can, without ripping everything out, you can paint your cabinets, right? People are doing a lot of color in cabinets now, different color in cabinets. And so you can keep your stone and you can keep your tile and you can paint your cabinets, keep your flooring, but paint your cabinets. So warm it up a little in that way. Painting cabinets is not super inexpensive, but if you bought really great cabinets, you're probably going to refinish them every 10 years or so anyway, right?
Okay.
That's about the time when people start to go, I'm so sick of that, right? I'm so sick of that. So I would say, keep your countertop keep your backsplash, paint your cabinets, and do that in some kind of fun color. Even if you just whiten them, just do a white on them, then you can add warm textural elements in baskets on the shelves or on the countertop, or adding natural elements, wood elements in cutting boards. Cutting boards can be a decorative warm element that you add to a kitchen. And how simple is that? Adding a few little accessories and things like that, adding color in a rug. That's something that you can do. And again, going back to paint color, you can really change things with paint color. So that's another it's less expensive to paint your walls than your cabinets. So
true. So tell me, what do you find that your clients are maybe missing in this process, like that they need that guidance on?
If I'm doing a remodel in a let's say it's a kitchen, I really get into the storage aspects of it. I want to know how you live on a daily basis, right? What's cooking like on a daily basis? Are the kids doing homework at the island? What's the activity? Do you entertain 3 times a week? What happens when your friends come over? What are you guys doing? And so through that process of asking all the questions, I make sure that their kitchens are incredibly functional. Right. Because I know what's going to happen in here. So I know, do I need a small wine refrigerator or a large one? Do I need a baking station or a barbecue, prep area? Do I need a wet bar, right? Because everyone's coming over and they're always in my way when I'm cooking, and I just want to help themselves to wine over there. A lot of times people don't understand how important, they just want a pretty new kitchen, right? A lot of times people don't understand how incredibly important all that function is. So I ask a million questions around that. And then the other thing I always try to talk with my clients about too is save money. If you're thinking remodel, okay, but you may not have gotten in your mind to furniture yet. So my question is, are you dragging your 10-year-old Pottery Barn sofa back into this space? And then they go, oh my God, I don't want to do that. So I say, okay, let's make sure we save some money aside for furniture. Window treatments, that's a huge one people forget. Window treatments are not inexpensive, right? They're a big line item. So I say, hold some money aside to make sure that we've got money in your budget to do beautiful window treatments and furniture that works better for your family and for your entertaining. So I guess you could say is I'm thinking about every aspect of how you live and how you move about your space and who's there and who's coming over. And so I take just a whole life approach to design, and my clients are often so just incredibly grateful. Like, oh my gosh, we've moved back into our house and it's just so easy to entertain and it's so great. And so those are some things.
Yeah. That's a great point. You mentioned about asking those questions about how are you living in this space? Because, we move into our homes and we don't think necessarily about how a space is going to be used. You just think like it's the kitchen. I'm just going to cook here and wash dishes and whatever. But You're right. There's kids maybe who are going to be doing homework at the counter. Your spouse maybe is going to want to get in there and help cooking too, or not. I don't know. It depends. Do you have room for that? And do you, like you said, can we move some of these things out of this space so that it's easier to use this space?
Yeah.
And I think that's a great point.
Right.
Yeah. Excellent.
Really important. And people, and then what I tell them also when I start talking about this is, okay, now that you're thinking about it for the next week, write down everything you love and is working well for you and just have a scratch pad, right? And then jot down the things that are not working for you. And oh my gosh, this bothers me. Maybe Priscilla can do something about this. And so it just is this great teamwork, right? I need all of that feedback and I need all of that data to make a beautiful, functioning design for people. So it's great when we collaborate like that. It's really collaborative, right?
Yeah. And I think that it's a great point about jotting down the things that are working and not working. So, maybe if now is not the time that you can be working with a designer, for your own self to figure out what works and what doesn't work and how you maybe can adjust a space by jotting down those things that do and don't work. You can make those adjustments yourself, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's just it gets the wheels turning and gets you thinking about, really great design is really about problem solving, right? Problem solving in then an incredibly beautiful way, right? So
yeah, you get the aesthetics, right? It looks beautiful, but it's also functional, and I love that. So I'm curious about what your thoughts are on some up and coming design trends that you're seeing that you could share with us.
Yeah, this is really fun. So one of the ways that I try to keep up on, what's the newest, what's the latest and greatest, what's, to have your finger on the pulse of what's happening in the design world is going to different trade shows, whether it's a furniture show or a kitchen and bath show or whatever. And so I've been to North Carolina, to High Point, which is the mecca of all furnishings. That trade show happens twice a year. And that's just like exhausting and awesome to walk around blocks and blocks like of all the latest and greatest. I just came back from Las Vegas Furniture Market and the KBIS show there, which is the kitchen and bath industry show, and also the builders show, all happened at the same time in Las Vegas. So we spent a few exhausting days there seeing everything. When it comes to the trends for furnishings, it's interesting. There's a lot of soft lines happening. Profiles for sofas and chairs are really sort of changing. There's a lot of softness in the lines, rounded edges, rounded corners. The colors are really intriguing. The colors for everything were just really different. I love it. It's like this warmth, right? Like things are going really warm or really vibrant. So earth colors, when I looked at the palette for, Sherwin-Williams had a booth, and when I looked at the palette for what is, up and coming, it's all earth tones with a little bit of pink. It actually reminded me so much of, I hiked the Grand Canyon a couple years ago down to the base of the Grand Canyon.
Wow.
We started before sunrise, and as the sun rose in the Grand Canyon, it just lit up the canyon into all these gorgeous shades of oranges and pinks and reds and browns. And when I looked at the palette for Sherwin-Williams, I was like, oh my God, it reminds me of that amazing experience that I had. So there's this feeling of sort of desert and canyon. A lot of that is really very, finger on the pulse right now. Really beautiful, calming and ethereal. And you're even seeing some of these colors on cabinets, beautiful earth tones on cabinets, painted cabinets. So that's just something really interesting and different. Then you have Pantone's color of the year is called Viva Magenta,
right?
Which I love. You can, it's magentas and emeralds are also very popular right now. So you're just allowed to have a lot of fun and explore and experiment. And you can do that in different ways. Again, you can just get all new pillows, right? In all these different earth tones, and maybe change a piece of art or move things around a little bit and really explore that, right? You don't have to rip everything out.
Yeah, that is so true. And I love what you said about that you could really kind of go either way. And it sounds like there's no definitive one size fits all, right? Design is different for everybody. And the colors that you choose, it doesn't have to be the same as somebody else. So if you love those earth colors, those earth tones, use them, add the pops of color if you want. Or if you like all those emerald tones, and you're right, that Pantone color, I'm like, magenta. Wow. All right. But you know what? So somebody might love that in their design, and that's what they want. And that's fantastic. Right. And it's kind of like you do what you want and do what makes you happy. And I love it.
Absolutely. And even do just a hint of it, or paint an accent wall, right? And why not paint a magenta accent wall? If you have a neutral sofa, but you can do that, right? And you can have fun with that. That's, it's a great way to keep your life sort of interesting and exciting, I think.
For sure. Well, I've had such a good time talking about all of this with you. And I'd like to wrap up right now, if you don't mind, with this question. Are there any design books or books that you've read or anything that you can suggest that the listeners could pick up and, maybe get some tips or ideas that might help them?
Gosh, that's funny. I haven't read an interior design book in so long, but what I would say is pick up the design magazines, right? California Home and Design. I actually have a copy right here. California Home and Design magazine. I love flipping through that. And there's so many great, editorials. We're in the Bay Area, and there's, Punch magazine, there's San Francisco. I think that's kind of more what I look towards. And I also read a lot of, Houzz, right? Houzz. If you haven't been on it, you need to get on it. I use Houzz every single day with a client because I can go, I think this room would look so great with a Viva Magenta wall. And they go, oh my God, how? So I go on to Houzz and I pull up magenta accent wall, and 400 pictures will come up with that accent wall. So it's such a great tool to use to communicate what I'm thinking to my clients and have them go, oh, that's not that scary, actually. Okay. And they also have a lot of great articles on the best appliances and what's new for this year. So I would say, do those things, go online to those things, go online, pick up a design magazine, just something that inspires you, on the cover, and flip through it. And you can get so much great information that way.
That's excellent. And are there any podcasts that you listen to that are maybe design related that you could suggest?
So I don't really listen to design podcasts. I'll tell you, podcasts, I listen to real estate podcasts all the time because I always want to know what's going on. But I have a couple of shows. I don't watch a ton of design shows, but I have a few that I think are awesome. So if you were to watch I think it's on HGTV, Windy City Rehab. If you haven't seen her, she's so awesome and inspiring, and she does such cool different stuff. I also follow like Kelly Worsler. I follow a lot of really famous designers on Instagram, right? And see what they're doing. What's the other one? Nate and Jeremiah. They're hilarious and they're so fun. So I love watching them. It's one of those things, I guess, when you're so creative all day, you need to kind of switch gears a little sometimes, right? So I kind of switch gears out of it, but it doesn't take long. If I have the weekend off and I find myself with, with nothing to do, which is rare, but I'm always like, ooh, let's go into that gallery. Ooh, let's go, right? And find inspiration. I love to just find inspiration everywhere.
I love it. Well, Priscilla, thank you so much for being on the show today and sharing all this great knowledge and information with us. I so appreciate it. If people had questions about design or your services, like how would they be able to reach you?
You can find me on Instagram, and it's Priscilla, Priscilla .Danielle, DANIELLE.designs. So you can send me a DM there. You can also find me on Facebook at Priscilla Danielle Designs. You can email me. I can give you my email address, I'll give you the short one because my PD at Priscilla Danielle Designs is super long and no one ever can get that right. It's just too long. I also go by pddesigns1 @gmail. So that's PDDESIGNS, the number 1 @gmail. Answer any questions.
Thank you. And I will, of course, include the information in the show notes so those that are listening can easily find that information.
Sure. Yeah.
So thank you again, Priscilla. I so appreciate your time, and I have enjoyed this conversation with you so much. Thank you again for coming on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This has been really fun.